everyone, this is Yogesh and welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to talk about constructors, types of constructors, and we will go through the code like how we write those construction and all, right? So before starting the video, if you're new to our channel, then please subscribe this channel as well as press the bell icon so that you will be notified first when we upload our new videos. And also look in our previous videos of this Java series where we have discussed basics of Java, oops, like what is principle of oops, how to write the code for objects and classes. So those things are covered. Access specifier is also covered. So now we are going to cover the constructors, right? So let's start. So basically, what is constructor? So a constructor, we can say that it's a special function which has same name as a class name. So whatever name which we give to the class, so same name which we are going to give to the constructor, right? So constructor name will be same as class name, and it doesn't have any return type. So it will not have any return type like int, something like that, boolean, anything. So it will not have any return type. As well as you can say that whenever an object is created, and at that time only this constructor function is triggered, right? So whenever you're creating an object, this function will be called, and whatever operation you are doing inside that will be done, right? So this was an overview of constructor. We will go through the example, but let me show you the types of constructor. So first is default constructor. Okay, so first is default constructor. Second is parameterless constructor, so in which we don't have a parameters. And third is parameterized constructor, where we are going to give some parameters. So there are three types of constructors. So let's discuss one by one, right? So this was the code which we wrote, I guess, on the last videos. So where we discussed about private and public, as well as how to write a class and object code. So this was written where we have a class main, and we have made a class phone. Phone has some parameters like camera, storage, RAM, where we made a setter function and a getter function. So setter and getter function basically means to set the data of the variables, and getter function means to display the data, right? So basically we made the object, and we set all the data. So you can see that camera, storage, and RAM, it is written, right? And manually also you can update the data, and then I have called the getter function to display the things. So this was a basic structure which we wrote on the last video, right? So let's see about the constructor. So basically we can say that, so if we don't perform this thing, like if I'm not performing this three things, right? So I am calling this thing, it means that I'm creating an object, right? So basically we can see that we don't have any values to this camera, storage, and we don't have anything, right? Simply we created the object and simply we are printing it, right? So what do you think, what will be printed? Because we are not calling this setter function, simply we are calling this getter function, right? So if I run this code, then we can see that the values, so we can see that the values of this camera, storage, and RAM is 0, 0, 0. That is default values. We can say that the values are default. So from where this value we are getting? So this values we are getting from default constructor. So what is this default constructor? We are not going to write anything. Basically, whenever I'm writing this, whenever I'm creating an object, default constructor is automatically called, and that will update all the default values to these parameters. So all these parameters will be assigned with the default value. So for example, if I write string and let's run this code, so you will get a default. Okay, some error issue is there. So this is string, right? So now it is okay. Now when we run this code, so in output we can see that, so the default value of this RAM is we are getting null. Why? Because we took it as string, right? So default value of string is null. So basically we are going to get all the default values, right? So this was related to default constructor. But if I talk about what is parameterless and parameterized constructor, so like in parameterless constructor, we are not going to give any parameters, right? So for that we have to write like this. We have to write the name of the constructor function, whose name is same as class name, right? It will not have any parameters, and what we will do is that we will simply update camera is equals to, for example, 15 megapixel, storage is equals to, we can say that 128 GB of RAM, storage, and RAM, let's take 8 GB of RAM, right? So we have taken this three things, right? So now let's run this code. So what we will see here in the output, what we will see here, we can see the values of camera, storage and RAM are 15, 128 and 8. So we will see that we were creating the object, so we have not passed anything, and we can see that in this constructor also we are not passing anything, that is there are no parameters, right? And the values which we are updating are some default values. So you will be asking what a difference between default constructor and parameterless constructor. So in default constructor, each and every variables will have some default values, right? That is 0, null, like this. But in parameterless constructor, you can give your user defined default values. That is, I am giving camera as 15, 128 to storage, 8 to RAM. So user defined default values, this thing I can give. So this is known as parameterless constructor. So you can see that we have the name of the constructor same as class name, doesn't have any return type, and it is triggered automatically when we when we are creating an object, right? So now let's talk about parameterized constructor, that is where we are passing the parameters. When we want to update this three datas according to the user, whatever user want, that is dynamically it will change for each and every user. So for that, let's create, so I will be passing something here. So int camera, int storage and int RAM. So pass three things, and what we will do is this dot camera is equals to, let's pass 30 megapixel camera, right? So let me write this again. So this dot storage is equals to, let's give 256 GB of RAM, and this storage, and RAM equals to 12 GB of RAM. So passing these three parameters, right? So what we have to do is that we have to pass some parameters here. So like we will not like this will be like this, because that is a default values, right? But we want user defined values, so we will update like this. It was my mistake. So what we can see that we have prepared a constructor, right, which have a same name as a class name, doesn't have any return type, as well as we have passed some parameters, and these parameters which are updating to these three variables. Now when we are calling this constructor, right, so at that time we have to pass this data. So we will pass 30 megapixel camera, 256 of storage, 12 GB of RAM, right? So let's call this function, let's run this code and let's see the output. So in the output we can see that we have a camera of 30 megapixel, storage of 256 GB and RAM of 12 GB, right? So what we can check is from here is that we are passing the parameters, right? And for that, this parameterized constructor which we have written, this will be triggered automatically when this object is created, right? So this three parameters will come here, and we are updating this three parameters. So whenever I am calling the getter function, so this three data will be printed. So I guess you have got to know about the constructor. So if you want to know what difference between constructor and functions, so functions are something which we have to call, right? Like you can see that we are passing get data, we are calling this get data function, but constructor is something which is called automatically when we are creating an object. So that is the basic difference between a normal function and a constructor wala function. So yeah, and I guess you have understood the different types of constructor, that is default, parameterless and parameterized. So this was everything related to the constructor. I guess you have understood everything. If you have watched video till here, then please like this video, and if you've enjoyed also, right? So yeah, that's it for today's video. Let's meet in some another video. तब तक के लिए bye bye.